Good afternoon. It's that time of day again when we take some time to come away from things that are happening around us, perhaps even in us, and spend some time to remind ourselves of who we are, especially in this fast-paced world, this fast-paced environment. Hi, I'm Conroy Wilson. This is our Noonday Inspiration, and today we're talking about a phrase that I grew up hearing, actually, and I trust you might have also grown up hearing. It says, bloom where you're planted. Bloom where you're planted. And of course, we're using as inspiration the Daily Inspiration for Better Living, which is a signature publication of the Universal Foundation for Better Living, and it's available at ufbl.org. I like the topic of bloom where you're planted because of the word bloom. It didn't just say grow where you're planted, it said bloom where you're planted. In other words, flourish. In other words, become the best you. Become the most beautiful, radiant part of yourself. And that's exciting for me because it means that I am not just here to grow. I'm not just here to be okay. I'm not just here to survive, as the song says, but I'm here to thrive. I'm here to be successful. I'm here to be the most beautiful me, the best me, whatever that looks like. And the nice thing is that that will look different for everybody. Every flower looks different. Every mango looks different. But everybody can bloom where you're planted. A lot of the times we are going and growing through life and we're not comfortable with where we are. We feel that, or most times, or some of the times we feel that the grass is greener somewhere else. And so what we do is we try to find reasons to get to somewhere else, to be somewhere else where we feel is better than where we currently are. And today we're talking about how it is that we, right where we are, in this very moment, without any kind of judgment or labels, we can become our best self. We can be all that we were meant to be, all that God has called us to be. So if you're ready, type into the chat, I'm ready to bloom where I'm planted. And I'm going to give you 4 simple steps that can help you through this whole process of blooming where you are planted. Thank you all so much for joining us, Ida, Phyllis, Donna, Joyce, and the rest of you. Of course, our writer for April 20th says, in ecosystems of natural selection, such as rainforests, plants of a certain species bloom where they are planted. They do so because the conditions of the soil and weather, including rainfall, sunshine, and temperature, all contribute to the growth and success of each plant. There's a divine intelligence within each seed that maximizes the conditions for it to grow. The seeds of the plants depend on the wind or animal life to move the seeds about the area that is native to them to germinate and reproduce. For us, as the highest creations of God's imagination, this does not mean that we are stuck where we are in our growth forever. But it does mean that we are to take advantage of all opportunities to grow and expand in consciousness wherever you are. St. Francis de Sales, in 1567 to 1662, as Bishop of Geneva, is recorded as saying, truly charity has no limit, for the love of God has been poured into our hearts by His Spirit, dwelling in each one of us, calling us to a life of devotion and inviting us to bloom in the garden where God has planted and directed us to radiate the beauty and spread the fragrance of God's providence. So, we're being invited to bloom where we are planted. Now, I want to make this practical today because if what we're learning or hearing or reading about in the Bible or from any great writer is not helping us today in 2022 to live a happy, healthy, prosperous life, to be our best selves, to be the grandest we could ever be, then what point is it? It is. So, what do we mean when we say bloom where we are planted? What do we mean, and how do you bloom where you're planted? How do you, in the midst of, you don't know what is going on, Conroy, you don't know the people I'm at work, so bad mind, or, you know, in this relationship I'm suffering, or in this experience, all these things are going on. How do I, in those circumstances, continue to bloom where I am planted? First and foremost, we have to recognize, we say it a lot of the times, you know, but sometimes we don't really take it to heart, as we say in Jamaica. We have to recognize that wherever we are, and this is physically and in our consciousness, wherever we are, the presence and power of God is, right? That's the first thing to recognize and identify. And so, the first thing about blooming where you're planted is, one, we need to stop complaining and start giving thanks right where we are. Now that may be a challenging one, and we need to check ourselves and be honest with ourselves, because some of us spend a lot of our times complaining about where we are, complaining about who is there, complaining about what we have, complaining about what we don't have, complaining about this, complaining about that, complaining about the government, complaining about our parents, complaining about our teachers, complaining about our partners. And so all of our energy is spent up complaining, that we miss the opportunities that are right in front of us. We miss the blessings that are there. We miss the goodness of God that is always around us. Check yourself. Since this morning, how many times have you complained about something? Check yourself since this morning. Start from when you woke up. When you were at home, whatever happened. How many times did you really complain? It didn't go as you wanted it to go or as you thought it should go, and you started complaining. And if you're a complainer, you're not blooming where you're planted. And so I'm inviting you, stop complaining and start giving thanks right where you are. Because that's the first step in learning to bloom where you are planted. Now let's equate this. We're going to equate this to the prayer of serenity. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. First thing, stop complaining, start giving thanks for where you are. That's your prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Complaining changes nothing. Complaining makes you miserable, makes you frustrated, makes you heated up, but it's not guaranteed to change anything or to make any difference. So, quit. There's some useless things that we do, and that's one of them. Quit complaining. The next one is, stop allowing your thoughts to run on autopilot. Some of us allow our thoughts to run on autopilot, meaning we jump on this thought that comes, an idea that comes to us. Boy, nothing not going for me. Boy, them wicked. Boy, they're always doing this to me. This whole victim mentality, things are not going well. This is not how it is supposed to be. And what we do, when we don't take control of that thought, and when we don't refocus that thought, then what happens is that our thoughts run wild, because we start to draw to it like thoughts, some of the same things. And because that's what we're thinking, because that's where we're giving our attention and energy, we start to draw to us like thoughts to support it. And then sooner or later, we're on this ride going down, and we can give 1,000 reasons why things are not working out. And who is to be blamed, and how it is it's always happening to you. And you go on and on and on and on and on and on into this whirlwind of negativity, into this whirlwind of bitterness, into this whirlwind of anger and hatred and fear and resentment. To what end? To what end? To what purpose? You're miserable, you're frustrated, you're not getting anywhere, while others are off living their life It's not because God prefers them to you or because they are more anything. It's because they are not choosing to focus and go down with you on this journey, this negative road. Your thoughts are not on autopilot. So start taking track of your mental activity. Where you are giving your energy and attention is what is showing up in your life, world, and affairs. So if every day you are complaining, if every day you are going through the negative stuff, if every day you are entertaining people who only talk in the negative stuff, if every day you are watching and consuming gossip, then what do you expect to be your experience? Because that is what you're planting, that is what you're watering, that is what you're giving your attention to, and that is what will bloom. You have to find ways to control your thinking. You are the thinker who thinks the thought that creates the thing. The thoughts do not control you. You control the thoughts. It's important to know most people don't want to take that responsibility because it's easier for us to say, yes, it's for them fault. It's their fault why this happened or why I think so or why I believe so. And yes, I prove it over and over and over and over again. And you prove it over and over and over again because it's a belief. A belief is just a thought that you keep thinking over and over and over again. And if it becomes a belief for you, then it starts to become your experience. So, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. The second line, the courage to change the things I can. You can't stop complaining. You can control your thinking. You are the master. You can control your thinking. Don't tell me that the thoughts and emotions that you have are controlling you. I am depressed. No, you're not. You're choosing to be depressed. I'm angry. No, you're not. You're choosing to be angry. I'm hurt. No, you're not. You're choosing to be hurt. Now, does it mean that things won't happen that will evoke these kind of emotions? Yes, they will. But you still have a choice. In every single situation, you have a choice. The question becomes, are you making that choice? Number 3, stop resisting and be willing to change and grow. Some of us resist forever. We find every single reason to block everything. To what end? Stop resisting. Stop going against the grain. Go with the flow of this growth, of whatever it is that is happening. Right where you are, there are things happening. There are great things happening. If your attention and energy is shifted from complaining to giving thanks, if you are conscious and mindful of the thoughts that you have to only entertain the ones that bless you and bless others, if you are non-resistant and you are willing to change and grow, there's no way that's your bloom, whatever that is not something beautiful and wonderful to behold. And the last one, stop comparing yourself to others and value who you are and what you have. That's one of our biggest things. We live our lives comparing ourselves. I'm not as good as, I'm not as smart as, and sometimes we don't say it out, because sometimes we walk around with this thing that say, yes, I'm beautiful, but deep down, we're comparing ourselves. Because that person looks smarter, that person looks more rich, that person looks more whatever it is. That person has more subjects, that person has more money, that person has more opportunities, that person. Forgetting that each of us, we are unique individuals. And we come to the table with our unique gifts and talents. And it is for me to develop those gifts and talents as far as I can, as best as I can. And it's for me not to compare myself to anybody else because I have my own race to run. And my race is my race. And I am a unique, unrepeated expression of the Christ, of God. There's no other me. There are people who may look like me, who may talk like me, who may walk like me, who may do whatever it is that they think they do, even better than me according to society's standards. But I am still me, and I don't need to compare myself to you. You don't need to compare yourself to anybody either. There's a space and a place for every single one of us. Because God called us in the beginning. Remember last week we spoke about the fact that all of us came with a blueprint. And if you're living and operating from that blueprint, your task this week is to bloom where you're planted. Your task this week is to be your best self. Your task this week is to stop complaining. If you find yourself complaining, shut up. Just catch yourself. Don't beat up on yourself. Just stop and start looking for things to give thanks for. Give thanks that you can even have the eyes and the mouth and the tongue to complain. Some people woke up this morning and couldn't speak because they had a sore throat or something else. They're in pain. You can complain. Give thanks that you can speak. The serenity to accept the things you cannot change. The courage to change the things you can. That's when you take 100% responsibility for yourself and your life. The courage, and courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the ability to feel the fear and do it anyway. That's courage. That's real courage. And lastly, what perhaps the most important is the wisdom to know the difference. The difference between the things I can change and the things I cannot change. And when I know them, then I can act accordingly. That is my responsibility. That is what I was called to be. That is what I will be. I will be that because that's what I was called to be. I was made in the beginning with this purpose. Right here, I was brought here with a purpose. I wasn't brought here to just meander around the place and just, casually come and eat and sleep and go to work and wake up and live and go to parties and then make my transition to another plane and that's it. No. I was called to be something great. I was called to bloom. I was called to be my best self. And right where I am, it may not be the most ideal circumstance or situation. It may not be the most ideal salary. It may not be the most ideal employees. It may not be the most ideal employer. It may not be the best relationship, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is. It may not be the best house and car or whatever it is. But right where I am, I can start to give thanks. And one of two things will happen. Either my situation and circumstances around me will start to line up to match that place that I'm vibrating on and bring me to that place, or I will be separated amicably from whatever it is. I don't need to fight. I don't need to blame you. I don't need to find a reason to make you wrong so that I look right and I feel good for leaving. I am just blooming where I'm planted. That's our task. I will be what you call me to be, God.
In the journey of life, there are winding roads, mountains high and valleys low. Though the road ahead may be unknown, I'm so focused on the prize that's worth pressing for. I will be what you've called me to be. I say yes, Lord, I agree. My desire passionately is to be what you've called me to be. That's what I'll be. be. I say yeah, Lord, with my whole heart, Lord.
Lord, I'll agree. My desire
It's
passionately is to be what you've called me to be.
and that's what I'll be. One more time, I will be
What you've called me to be.
I say yeah,
I say yes.
Lord, I
Lord, I agree. My desire passionately is to be what you called
what
me
you called
to
me to
be.
be, Lord, and that's what I'll be. I say yes, say yes.
Yes, I agree.
Though I resist your way,
I say yes.
yeah.
Yes,
But I trust your word,
I
God.
agree.
I trust your word, God. I trust your word for my life.
I say
Cause
yes.
where you lead me, I will follow.
Yes,
I will follow where you lead me, Lord. I will follow where you lead me, Lord. I will follow where you lead me, Lord.
I say yes.
Cause if you send me, I'll go there, Lord.
Yes,
Cause if you send me, I'll go there, Lord. For you know the plans, you know the plans, you know the plans, Lord. So I
I
say
say yes. Yes, I agree.
I say yes to your will, Lord. Yes to your way, Lord.
I agree.
I surrender it all. Yeah. Cause I will be what you've called me to be. I'll say yes. Lord, I agree. My desire passionately is to be what you've called me to be. And that's what I'll be. Yeah. That's what I'll be, Lord. Say that's what I'll be. Say that's what I'll be. God said that is what you be. You know that that's what I will be. Cause if you lead me, Lord, I'll follow. I'm gonna go where you send me, Lord. And I'm gonna trust in your word, Lord. Cause your ways are higher than mine. Your ways are higher than mine. So I trust in you, oh God. Trust in you, oh God. Trust in you, oh God. Today I'm putting all my trust in you. Cause that's what I'll be.
Your task for today, the rest of today and the rest of this week, I'm inviting you to do an evaluation of yourself and to see if where you are, right where you are, in your spiritual life, in your mental, emotional life, physically, in your relationships, in your social life, in your vocational life, on the job, and in your finances, if it is that you are blooming where you are planted. Check yourself. Do a self-evaluation. Where are you complaining as opposed to giving thanks? And just start to switch it. Where are you allowing your thoughts to run wild and to take you on a wild goose chase down the road of negativity? And fix it. Where are you resisting and being unwilling to change and grow and just fix it? And where are you comparing yourself to others and fix it? Because it's only taking this full responsibility for ourselves individually and taking our eyes off everything and everyone else that we can be what we're called to be. And we're called in Genesis 1:28 to be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Now be fruitful, some of us limit that to having a lot of children. That's one way of being fruitful, perhaps provided you can take care of them, every single one, and give them that best life to bloom just as how you ought to bloom. But think of your fruitfulness as in the thoughts that you think, as in the experiences that you have, as in your actions, as in your reactions. Think of fruitfulness in your spirituality. How fruitful are you in recognizing your own sense of self, your own sense of oneness, your own God self? Think about being fruitful and increased in terms of your mentality. How much time do you spend in positive thinking? How much time do you spend focusing your attention on the things that Philippians tell us are good and pure and true and honorable and just? That's what we're called to be. Think of yourself physically. Are you being fruitful and multiplying? Is your health at its optimal? Are you comparing yourself? Are you complaining? Are you not valuing what you have? Think about yourself as relational beings. That relationship that you're in, that you're looking outside, peeping at somebody else's people, and thinking that the grass is greener over there. Why not focus and build what you have here? And this is not to say you're to stay into any situations of abuse or violence at all, because that's not what you're called to be. But you can, in the moment, begin to appreciate and love and respect and look for the good right where you are. Think about your vocation, your job. That's where a lot of us complain, because it is always never enough. There's always something, always more. We want an increase as things go up. Start to find areas. Overfill your space. Overfill your space where you are. Wherever you are, overfill that space. And if you overfill that space, I guarantee you, because that is who you are, your life will be filled overflowingly with all that you could ever desire. But you have to activate the law of giving and receiving. It must be activated. Overfill your space, you're overfilled. Don't overfill, things are taken from you one way or the other. Overfill your space, you're overfilled. Don't overfill the space and play small. One way, by the other, things are taken from you. You wonder, why this happened to me? Why you could get an increase today, and by tomorrow, you have a big expense that takes away that increase. It's the same thing. Because you get according to what you're believing. In your finances, it's the same thing. So, watch what you're doing with yourself and your life. And ensure as you go through today, bloom where you are planted. And remember that you're always surrounded by the light of God. You're always enfolded by the love of God. You're always protected by the power of God. And you're always watched over by the presence of God. Wherever you are, God is. And all is well. Thank you, God. And so it is.